For me, it doesn't get much better than Metal Gear. Hideo Kojima's legendary stealth series has been a huge part of my life, and I've loved them all. From Metal Gear Solid 1 to the Phantom Pain, and even those goofy acid games had their moments as well. Sure, the saga's wacky, convoluted story and cheesy dialogue might not be everyone's cup of tea, but that's kind of what makes Metal Gear Metal Gear.
Who told you about me?
An informer calling himself Mr. X dressed like a ninja.
I see.
So Mr. Kojima left Konami in 2015, right before the launch of MGS5, which actually turned out to be the last great Metal Gear. The future of the series was called into question. But of course, as we know now, Konami dug up its corpse and created this piece of shit, Metal Gear Survive, and I absolutely hate this game. This is how you kill a franchise. So Metal Gear Survive picks up where 2014's Ground Zeroes left off. And if you never played Ground Zeroes, it was an awesome 20 minutes, which is actually 5 less minutes than the amount of pounds I spent on it.
Here comes the money!
Here we go!
Ground Zeroes sets up what was to come in the Phantom Pain, and by the end of the prologue, MSF's mother base has been invaded and destroyed by XOF under the guise of a UN nuclear inspection. Now just note that I said MSF's mother base and not Diamond Dogs, we'll come back to that in a minute. So we get this really cool scene where Big Boss arrives on the crumbling base, he rescues Miller and he takes out a few guys along the way. And this is where Survive's Oscar-worthy plot has been shoehorned in. The player character, who the game calls the Captain for some reason, gets sucked into a wormhole along with the entire mother base structure and some soldiers. There's a bull explanation for all this that plays out across a series of cutscenes, but I wasn't paying too much attention to this to be fair because it's all pretty dumb. Although the cutscenes do seem to be inspired by the older Metal Gear games, which is a nice touch I guess, but they're honestly nothing interesting. So in case you're wondering, you do in fact create your character, but he's just another generic mother base soldier. You know, these guys who were previously reserved for side ops and that sort of thing. And as you can see, I took my time delicately sculpting Survive's legendary hero, and I gave him a fitting name too.
My name is
Joe.
I'm just going to come right out and say it. I played about 4 hours of this game, so I'm not going to be going in depth about the story or anything like that. But what I can say is that this game is fine, mechanically speaking at least. I didn't notice any game-breaking glitches, or any glitches for that matter. This game is just boring. And for some reason, Konami decided to go for this weird zombie survival thing, and it has absolutely zero to do with the main Metal Gear canon. Nothing makes sense either, and because you're playing as just some random dude and you're supported by a collection of unknown characters, it all just feels so unimportant. It doesn't help that the developers don't even seem to care about the game's continuity or its place in the wider Metal Gear universe. Remember how I said just a moment ago that it was MSF's mother base that sucked into the wormhole? Well, would anyone care to explain why it now has the Diamond Dogs logo on it? That might seem like a minor thing, but it's made so blatant during the game's opening scenes that I just had to roll my eyes. Of course, they couldn't even be bothered to get the basics right. This is just another Konami cash grab. But let's not get too caught up on minor stuff like plot. What's the actual gameplay like? How different can it really be from the games we know and love? Well, very different, and so much worse as it turns out. In this game, you run from point A, your base, to point B, your mission objective. Complete whatever mundane task you've been given, and then go back again. Just look at this footage. Here I've been sent in search of a memory board, and I've had to venture off into the dust, which is basically a big cloud of shit that covers areas of the map and is full of zombies. It also requires you to equip an oxygen tank. And that's the other problem with this game. So much of it is just watching meters. There's a hunger meter, there's a thirst meter, there's a stamina meter, there's an oxygen meter, and it all depletes so quick. It's like they just thought, oh, people love Snake Eater survival mechanics, let's just throw some of that in. But it feels nowhere near as important or interesting in Metal Gear Survive. And not just because I didn't care about keeping Virtual Joe alive. Every time I wanted to chow down, I had to find a small animal, usually a goat, and prod it with my long pole. And if that sounds awkward and uncomfortable, that's because it is. To make matters worse, it takes so goddamn long to kill everything, and the stick thing is so clunky to use, it just feels like a total chore. There's nothing fun about it. With Metal Gear Survive being a zombie game, obviously one of the main things you have to do in it is kill zombies. If the game got this right, maybe everything else could have been forgiven, but the reality is Survive fails to even do a halfway decent job of it. The developers were lucky to have the Fox engine to use as the basis for this game, and occasionally there are glimmers of the Phantom Pain's incredible gameplay, but ultimately they wasted that golden opportunity. Killing zombies has never been less fun than it is here. The majority of the time they're just slow and plodding and can't keep up with you. It's actually embarrassing how pathetic they are as enemies and how dumb the AI is. You'll see them flopping over barricades and trying and failing to reach you when you're stood just a few inches above them. It's baffling. You can literally just stand there, slowly picking them off one by one from the high ground. Obi-Wan would be proud.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
As with hunting, you spend most of your time just going at them with the long stick thing, and Survive implements this craft system which you can use to build fences and other items for use in battle and on your base. Now, the fences are a key part of the combat in this game, and they can be placed pretty much anywhere. The idea is to put them up when you're being attacked by a horde so they can't reach you and you can stab them through the holes. Sure, it sounds okay in concept, but these enemies can't even walk around them a lot of the time, so you only really need to place 2 or 3 directly in front of you. And there's no need to be concerned about leaving gaps either. These zombies won't be slipping through them. Instead, they'll just be there clambering at the fence while you stab them in the head one by one.
I'm gonna give you the broom, Jeff! I'm gonna broom you!
And if you get bored of doing that, no worries. These guys won't be quick enough to keep up with you a lot of the time, so you can just run past them if you want. I mean, come on, look at this. I'm barely much quicker than walking here, and these zombies are struggling to keep up. And that's a huge problem in Survive. When you're not running from point A to point B for a quest or to find food, you're simply running past the zombies. You know, the thing that's supposed to be the key selling point of the entire game. As I already mentioned crafting, I might as well talk a bit about the resources you need to make stuff. Basically, you need to collect a random assortment of junk and combine different bits. While there are quite a lot of different items to create, I find myself building trusty fences most often and not much else. You can actually craft other weapons and ammo to use in guns, but all that seemed like a lot of effort that I wasn't willing to put into a game this bad. So yeah, you run around grabbing these random components, then head back to your base where you can turn them into something more useful. If you're struggling to find resources laying around, you can always destroy tables, drums and that sort of thing and collect the scrap. But once again, you're just stabbing stuff with the stick. Great fun. Just to go back to this game's dumbass AI and lame zombies quickly, check this out. On my way out of the area, I decided to see just how slow I could go without them catching up to me. I literally crawled out of there and didn't get hit a single time. I couldn't have moved any slower without being stationary, and these dudes still couldn't get me. And if the enemies don't give a shit in Metal Gear Survive, why should I? They just stumble around like your dad after a few too many pints of John Smith's. Can I just remind everyone, this game was built using the same engine as Metal Gear Solid 5.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
No need to approach missions in different ways, think strategically, or plan a stealthy entrance or escape. Just crawl. It's as simple as that. It's easy to say that Metal Gear Survive is bad purely because Kojima wasn't part of it. But the reality is, a great Metal Gear doesn't necessarily need Kojima. I'm sure there are developers out there who could have done the series justice. Look at Metal Gear Rising. That was far from a typical Metal Gear game, but it stood on its own as an awesome hack and slash adventure that proved it deserved its place in the series. So I think what I'm trying to say is that Survive didn't have to be yet another soulless zombie thing, but it's clear that somewhere along the way the decision was made to simply crank out a game with the name Metal Gear plastered across it, whether it lived up to that name or not. Even if the game looked crappy, I'm sure there was enough confidence at Konami that some fans will pick it up out of curiosity alone. And for those who did buy it on release or since, I've no doubt they found a game about as far from a true Metal Gear as it could possibly get. This is just a bunch of random ideas thrown together. Let's face it, zombies are just so generic and obvious these days. Of course, if they're done right and there are some genuine scares, they can still be worthwhile. But Survive isn't even scary.
Ooh, you're hard, showing off.
I can't recall a single tense moment from my time with it. I spent a few hours mindlessly running around, pressing the buttons it told me to press and ticking the boxes it told me to tick before uninstalling it. And I suppose when I'm talking about how Metal Gear Survive killed the franchise, this is what I mean. It's not that Metal Gear is dead. Obviously there are millions of fans still hoping for more, and of course the great memories we've got of it live on. But when a lifelong Metal Gear fan like myself feels compelled to just uninstall the latest entry in the series without a second thought, that's saying something. Konami didn't kill Kojima's Metal Gear franchise. The only thing they managed to kill is their own Metal Gear franchise. No one's looking at this and equating it to Sons of Liberty or Guns of the Patriots. And everyone knows it isn't from the same minds that concocted MGS1 and Snake Eater. They had the chance to create something truly unique, free from Kojima's overly ambitious ideas and complicated narrative choices. Whether you like it or not, those things didn't do the Phantom Pain any favours. But Konami fell at the first hurdle and put a bullet in their golden goose. Here's hoping that long-rumoured Metal Gear Solid remake can bring this series back to life. In the meantime, drop us a like, don't forget to subscribe and check us out at downtimebros.com.